What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Gen Z Money, where we turn financial peace to your reality. On today's episode, I interviewed Mattthew from Black Bear Finance. He was seriously, it was great having a conversation with him, man. He was super duper knowledgeable, and his whole view on the mindset of making money, investing money, it really aligns with a lot of the same values I have and a lot of the same values that I like to put out to you guys. I mean, he's a buy and hold guy. He's not about timing the market, but really, he has understood that in order for people to be successful, you really have to first change their mindset. So that is really what we were talking about in this episode. So if you or someone you know is still not in the right mindset in order to achieve financial independence, I really think you guys are going to enjoy this episode. It did run a little bit long, but it had a bunch of great information. You'll hear his story. You'll hear how his mindset has changed over the past coming years. But really, hopefully, this is going to inspire people who are still on the fence on whether they can become wealthy. With that being said, guys, I'm not going to spoil too much of what he's got to offer. So let's go ahead and get into the interview. What's going on, Mattthew? Welcome to the Gen Z Money Podcast, man. How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing phenomenal, man. I came across your content on Instagram, man, and you put out a whole lot of good investing, saving, mindset content. And that's why I asked you to come on the show and not only share your story, but I want to pick your brain, man. I want to see what you got going on in the
Thank
finance world.
you. Well, I'm excited to be here. I want to thank you for your service, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, thank you for your support, man. But let's go ahead and start off from the beginning. Let's start out at little Mattthew
All
running
right.
around. How was money talked about and viewed as you grew up?
Well, I think I was lucky because my parents, they did kind of talk about money. I mean, I know I see a lot of people saying on social media how their parents never told them anything. They never even discussed money. They weren't allowed to even bring it up at the dinner table. My parents weren't like that so much. They did give me some guidance along the way. They didn't bring me to where I am today, but I think I was lucky to have parents that were willing to at least say, "Hey, it's important that you work hard. It's important that you don't take on debt. It's important that you save money." So, as much as they might not have told me the things that I do now, the specific things that I do with my money now, they did, send me in the right direction by kind of giving me the general idea of how to be good with money. So I was lucky in that aspect. My mother really, she was someone that was very open about what she did with her money. My father, not so much. He had his own things going on, and he wasn't so open with what he did. My parents were divorced, just like your parents, and he wasn't as open, but he did always try to instill in us that you have to work hard. He always said, "Hey, life's not fair. Face adversity, figure it out." So, he wasn't one of these people that was going to say, give up, the system's rigged, it's terrible. He was kind of one of the people that said, you can overcome it, you can face adversity, you can do it. So as much as he didn't guide me so much with specifics in my finances, he did kind of get the ball rolling. And my mother, she was very open with her finances, but she didn't really, she wasn't really confident with her knowledge in her finances. So she was very good with, knowing that it's important to pay your bills on time. It's important to save. It's important to have an emergency fund. But she didn't really know about investing, and she knew that she was supposed to. So she got a financial advisor. And I always tell people, if you're not confident, or even when you do your own research and you still don't feel comfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. I know I see a lot of these gurus now saying, just do it on your own. Do it on your own. I'm not going to tell anyone that you have to do it on your own, or that you should feel stupid for not thinking you could do it on your own. it is a daunting task. And I think for my mother, it was daunting to do everything by herself. And now keep in mind, things are, to me, are a lot easier now because of the internet, because of YouTube. The information is so much easier to access than it was, when my mother was starting out. But she was open to tell me, what she did with her money. And I think, that really helped get the ball rolling for me. So as much as it might be nice for me to say, no one ever helped me and I did it all on my own, I had to figure it out, things were tough. Things weren't that tough because my parents were rather open with me, and they did try to steer me in the right direction when they could. Like I said, my mother, some things she wasn't confident in steering me in. So, she would say, when you get to this point, get a financial advisor. And we'll get into that more as we talk more, but that's really where it all began. Not so much telling me what I do now. I didn't have anyone to tell me about that stuff, with index funds or anything like that, but they did instill in me, work hard, don't take on debt, pay your bills, and save your money.
Man, you hit on so many good points. Like, I'm sitting here taking notes. And the first one, man, is I think it is so great that you mentioned that your father didn't bring you up with that victim mindset. Like, you can't make it, you might as well give up. The man is always going to be ahead. And that mentality, because I do think that unfortunately a lot of people are brought up that way. Like, you'll never get ahead, the little man will always be the little man. He said, like, look, you work hard, you can overcome these things, and you can be great. So I think that's a message that I hope that we can give more people, that, like, yes, it might be harder for you, but it's not impossible. And then with investing it can be very, very overwhelming. With all of the different ways to get information, it's super duper easy. And there's like 1,000 different ways you can go when investing. Like, it can be extremely overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And so having a professional in your corner, there's nothing wrong with that. And so I'm really glad that they took the pride off the table. Like, listen, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know every stock that's in an index and how it's performing. You just need to know the basics. What you describe is kind of like the fundamentals, the common sense of financing, which is live on less than you make, save your money, and don't get into too much debt. And I think that's more than half the battle. I think once you get past the basics that you just mentioned, the investing part gets a lot easier.
I mean, if you could do those things, that's, like you said, more than half, it might be 90% of it. If you can do those things, that last 10% is all the other stuff that we start nitpicking about investing and all their stuff. 90% of it is like, can you stick to your budget? Can you pay your bill? That's, and that's why, a lot of my content is about the mindset more than talking about, hey, put your money here, put your money here.
Yeah. And they say that the most successful portfolios are those of dead people, because they just simply buy and that's it. and that's it. And
yeah, I mean, the psychology of investing is very interesting, because you see, we ruin it for ourselves. So these dead people aren't ruining for themselves. They're not overthinking it. They're not trying to time the market. They're not throwing money in, taking money out. And that is something that is also difficult to get across to people, because if you don't have that mindset that, hey, I'm going to set it and I'm going to forget it, then that's when you start pulling it out when there's a correction. And you miss out on a lot of gains because you don't know when to put it back. So that all goes back to mindset.
I'm so glad you say that. So with the mindset thing, at what point, because okay, so your parents they gave you the basics. They gave you save money, don't go too far into debt. So at what point did you realize that you needed to take control of your finances? Was there like a pinnacle moment that you can remember as like, okay, I need to learn about investing, or I need to learn to start saving money and stuff like that?
I don't think there was like a specific moment, but I do know that from a very young age, I was always into saving. So I know a lot of people aren't like that, and maybe I'll lose followers by being honest, but I don't want to fake it and pretend like I was always terrible at saving and I fixed it all and you can do it too. I'm just trying to be honest. And ultimately, just because I was good at saving doesn't mean people can't save even better than I was. Just because it was always in my. You can change your mindset and you can become a good saver. But I was lucky enough to, from a young age, I always was big into saving. I remember I was like 12 years old and I decided, you know what, I'm going to start saving my birthday money. And it started, one year I'll save my birthday money, and for Christmas I'll save that money too. And just year after year, I just kept saving it. And I started to, my parents, I was lucky enough that my parents paid for a lot of my stuff. My father was he was willing to buy me clothes. So if you want the nice stuff, it comes out of your pocket. If you just want the basic stuff, I'll pay for that. So I always just stuck to the basic stuff. And I don't know if that was because I was being cheap or what it was, but I always kind of figured I'd rather save my money than maybe look flashy at school this year. So from a young age I saved, and as I got older, I continued to save, and then eventually it got to a point where I graduated college and I got a job and I started making pretty decent money. And at this point, I was still just saving, because in my head, I was like, I don't know when I'm going to need this money. I didn't know too much about the stock market. And I felt like I can't risk it. The stock market at this point seems like a gamble to me. So I'm not, I'm 23, 24 years old. I'm not putting my money in the stock market because I don't know when I'm going to need this money. And after, a friend of mine actually said, you know what? You should put your money in the stock market. It's really not a gamble. And I was a little skeptical, but he said, why don't you read some books about the stock market and about investing? And he didn't want to preach to me about what to do, but he said, learn about it. If after you learn about it, you still don't want to do it, that's fine. I'm just trying to help you, because you know what? The stock market's pretty good. So, around 24, I started to get into it. I started to learn, and I still wasn't big into putting my money in the market, because my big goal at that point I wasn't looking at retirement like most 23, 24-year-olds. I wanted a house. That was my big thing. I wanted a house. So I was saving for a down payment, and I didn't want to put that down payment money into the market. So I dabbled a little bit. I did open a 401k with my job, so I had a little money going into there. But as I kind of read more and got more into it, then, my mindset just continued to change. And to this day, my mindset changes as I learn more. So, I'd say probably at 12 years old, I had that itch. I got to start saving. And then, at 24, I had that thing where I was like, I have to start learning about what do you do with this? All right. I got saving down, right? I got paying the bills down. I was good at that. I was staying out of debt. But what do you do with your money now? You have all this money saved. It's just sitting there. I know you're not supposed to just let it sit there, because in a regular bank account, it's going to make 0.05%. Okay. Put it in a high yield. It's still only making, at that time, maybe 2 or 3%. But you can make a lot more. And if I'm not using it, why not put it somewhere where it's really going to grow?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities between our stories, man, because I found myself in the same exact spot. I talk about it on the first episode of the podcast. It's like, I got really, really good at saving, and I got really, really good at staying, debt adverse. And I got really, really good at paying my bills on time. And my wife asked me, she's like, it's like, what are you saving for? And that was the pinnacle point where, like, I need a new goal, because saving indefinitely, I realized it just was not the right path to take. I want to highlight your friend's conversation, because I think what he did was, instead of planting a seed in your head and sitting there just trying to talk to it and continue to preach to it and watch the tree blossom, he just planted the seed and he kind of just let it go. He wasn't preachy, he wasn't pushy. And I think that a lot of people can come off that way, especially when you think someone's doing something that is in a way hurting themselves by, like, he sees all you're doing is saving, which is good, but he sees what you could be doing. He sees the return you could be doing. But he wasn't pushy, he wasn't preachy, as you said. He just planted the seed, and you took the seed and you grew it into, the tree that you're becoming now, is
Yeah.
the analogy.
And I think I've done that before. I've been pushy on people when people tell me, they have so much in savings and they don't have a plan for it and they're just going to let it sit there. I've talked to people that are, oh, I have a fund going for my kid's college. I'm like, oh, is it like a 529 or you got like a custodial brokerage account? Oh no, I just opened a savings account for them. I'm like, oh, you're not going to use it for 18 years. You're going to let it sit in savings, and you get a little pushy because you're like, that's not, you're trying to help them or whatever. But you're absolutely right. If you can plant that seed and you can, and let put the ball in their court and let them figure it out, sometimes or a lot of times that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely been working on, is because like I said before, like you see that they have a savings account for college, which is nice, but
Great.
you imagine, like, you could be so much better. You have so much potential. Like,
Yep.
I just want you to be the best you can, but you can't force them. And
Yeah.
that's where I've gotten to this point. That's actually one of the reasons I started this podcast and started putting out this information. Is like, when someone asks me my opinion, hey man, go listen to my podcast. Let me know what you think. Here's an episode that kind of talks about what you're talking about. Let me know what you think. Or, and just putting the information out there. And if people listen to it, they take advantage, they come to me, then it's so much easier to get that seed planted and get the ball rolling, rather than, hey, why aren't you saving for retirement? Hey, why you got that $800 car payment? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? I think it just comes
Absolutely.
off. It
Yeah.
comes
And
off.
that's why this podcast is great, because you can learn so much and it's just no judgment. Listen to the podcast, take what you want, leave what you don't want. And then, maybe go on from there, listen to more podcasts or do your own research. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. And then you mentioned that you started absorbing, different books, podcasts, and content to kind of get your financial journey rolling. Do you know any off the top of your head? Do you remember any books you read in particular, or any podcasts you listened to, or any people that you followed to kind of enhance your financial knowledge?
Well, I'm still absorbing stuff. I'm still reading. I'm still, checking out other people's podcasts and content and their social media. But when I first started, I know Rich Dad Poor Dad, amazing, outstanding. I think because it's so popular, people want to bring it down a little bit. It's like when things are big and everyone loves them, people want to say, oh, it's overrated. But to me, that was just an amazing book. I recommend it to anyone, no matter where you are, what your plans are. It's good just to see what he's talking about and kind of the mindset. Like, we go back to talking about the mindset. I just thought that was amazing. That's just as a general finance book. When it came to like investing and stuff like that, because I'm kind of a big stock market guy. I know you like real estate, right?
Yeah,
Big
I
real
do a
estate
little.
guy.
I do a little bit of both. You know what I mean?
So I like the market more than real. I love real estate too, but not nearly as much. So I like to read a lot about investing. But Peter Lynch, his books, I love Peter Lynch. I think he's someone that people don't talk about enough. So that was a good one. There's a little book of common sense investing. That's a good one. Market Wizards. That those are Peter Lynch, Market Wizards. Those are good books to read. So that's who I would really recommend. As far as content, at this point right now, I like to keep up with Gerald Peters. Full Auto 11, I think is his handle on Instagram. He's awesome, outstanding. I love to he puts out stuff like every day. I love to watch his Instagram story and whatever else he has to put out. And you're not going to agree with everything that these people say. Dave Ramsey, you're a Dave Ramsey fan, right?
Before we get into that, man,
Okay.
I was literally about to ask you that
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people, especially when you go to like a guru, they think like, okay, if I'm going to listen to this guy, I need to listen to absolutely everything he says. It's going to work out perfect for me, and I'm that guy. Like, I'll take a little bit from here. Like, I love Dave Ramsey. He's absolutely crazy in some aspects, but he's got some great stuff. I listen a little bit of Grant Cardone over here. He's absolutely nuts, but he's got some nuggets. And you just take little bit from every different source, and you develop your own plan. I really love that you brought that up, as like, you don't have to agree with absolutely everything.
I mean, I know people love Grant Cardone. I don't really like the guy particularly, but I like some of his content and I'll watch him. You know what I mean? So you don't have to agree with everything they say. You don't have to really like the guy or anything like that. But you could take some stuff from them,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's like, Dave Ramsey, absolutely love him. I don't agree with some of the things he says. Grant Cardone, don't really like the guy, but I do agree with some of the things. So you take what you want and you leave what you don't.
I love it, man. I couldn't have said it better myself, man. I love that. Yeah, I love Dave Ramsey. Like I said, like I think his first three steps are like the Bibles of financing. You have to
He's
have an
amazing.
emergency fund. You have to keep maybe not all your debt paid down, but you need most of your consumer debt needs to go away, and you need an emergency fund. After that, we could talk about it, but
Yeah.
and the same thing with Grant Cardone. He's like, don't save your money in the banks. I'm like, for the most part, after 6 months of expenses, yeah, you shouldn't put any more money in the bank. But leverage every dime. I'm like, that's how you go bankrupt. So it's just grabbing the little pieces from everyone, man.
Yeah.
So when did you decide that you wanted to start keeping track and documenting your financial journey with Black Bear Finances?
Well, somewhere along the way, I thought, you know what, I have been researching this stuff for 8 or 9 years, and I've been just trying to put it all together myself. And I thought to myself, I should really put this all down on paper. What I know, a lot of the things are opinions. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a lawyer. Anything I say, I hope no one takes as advice that you should definitely go and do it. But I think it's good to have the information out there. And I thought, I should write a book about this stuff, about just all the stuff I've learned, put all the information I know together, even if some of it is opinions. I'll put it together and I'll write this book, and I'll, maybe it'll help someone. Okay. Why don't I write the book that I wish I had when I was 18 or when I was 22? So once I started writing the book, I said, you know what, this stuff that I'm writing, maybe I should start making posts about this stuff, and put it out there, because maybe people won't want to ever read this book, which is fine. All right, I wrote it really for myself. I was kind of something to challenge myself, see if I could put this nice book together, that I could maybe somewhere along the way recommend to, I'm not even necessarily to strangers or make money or anything like that off of it, but recommend it to a cousin or someone else that in my family, or a friend that it could be useful to. And so then, I said, why don't I start posting this stuff? And so then I started, the Instagram, Black Bear Finance. I just started posting, and now it's something that I like to post, whenever I find something that's cool. I'll throw it out there. If there's something on my mind that I think, might benefit someone else, I'll post it on there. And I just started going from there as I was working on this book. So now the book is done, and I'm still going with the Black Bear Finance, and I hope to keep adding to it, stuff from the book, and stuff that's maybe more current, or that comes to my mind now that maybe isn't in the book.
Well, let's talk about the book. Rich People Eat Leftovers, a simple and practical guide to budgeting, saving, and building a foundation to getting and staying rich. I put staying in parentheses, bold, underline, because that's the hardest part, right? The people who go bankrupt the most, athletes, entertainers, lottery winners, they go bankrupt relatively fast. So obviously getting rich is a lot easier than staying rich. So let's start with what inspired the title, because I find it extremely accurate. Extremely accurate.
I think the hardest part for people is making sacrifices. We don't want to make sacrifices, right? We work very hard. We've worked hard our whole lives. We've faced a lot of adversity. We deal with a lot of nonsense day to day, right? And whatever your is part of your life, whether you have to work every day, whether you have to take care of family every day, whatever it may be, we deal with nonsense, right? We feel that way. Hey, I deal with so much nonsense. I shouldn't have to sacrifice in other ways, right? If I work hard and I make all this money, why shouldn't I spend it and enjoy the luxuries of life? We don't want to sacrifice that life because we feel like, we make all these other sacrifices. We feel like we deserve it, right? And I could talk all day about my thoughts on if people deserve things, right? Because when you look at some of these gurus, they'll tell you you don't deserve anything, and I would agree with that. Okay, because you know what, the things that we want the most, you're going to have to give up more than you're willing to give up, and that is sacrifice. That's why you don't really deserve what you think you deserve, because things that you think you deserve come a lot harder than what you've put in. So my thought is that, you know what, you need to sacrifice. And what we see is that rich people, and we'll talk more about what that means to be a rich person, but rich people, they make sacrifices. So as much as people like to say, oh, rich people, they inherited it. Well, in reality, about 79-80% of millionaires, they didn't inherit it. Okay. And what did they do? What did all those people do to get where they are? They made sacrifices. And that's what Rich People Eat Leftovers is all about. They ate leftovers. Okay. They cut things out of their lives, or they didn't partake in things that were going to be expensive. They limited their vices. So, as much as we want to spend money on expensive champagne or liquor, and we want to buy the video games as soon as they come out, $80 a pop, get all these video games, and we want to play lotto, and we want to go to the casino, and we want to eat fancy dinners every night, and we want to get Uber Eats for lunch every day. As much as we want to do all those things, you'll see that rich people, millionaires, they don't really do those things, at least not on the way to becoming a millionaire. So if you want to get to where they are, don't look at how they live now. You don't want to look at how they live now. Okay, great. Yeah, they made it. Their life might have changed now that they made it. They have more wiggle room. But I can almost guarantee on the way up, they weren't living like that. Okay, so now if you see them at fancy restaurants, were they doing that on the way up? Probably not. And that's what Rich People Eat Leftovers is all about. Hey, you got to make these sacrifices. You might want to live the way they're living right now, but you haven't made the sacrifices yet. And that's what you have to do in order to get there, in order to be part of those millionaires. Okay, that's 79-80% of people that became millionaires on their own. They made sacrifices. We all like to think that millionaires, right? They all, they just were, they inherited it and they were able to go out and buy a helicopter. Well, in reality, most millionaires don't have helicopters, and the vast majority of them did not inherit it. So what does that say to me? That says it's possible for you to become a millionaire. It's possible for me to become a millionaire, but I have to do what they're going to do. So the book talks about all the things that we have to do. All right. Because I'm in this with you. I'm not a millionaire yet. All right. I'm in this with you. It's the things that we have to do in order to become millionaires, in order to get rich.
Man, Matthew, what you're saying, man, is giving me goosebumps. I'm loving it. Everybody loves to see what people look like at the finish line. They never want to look at the journey they took to get there. That's why I made this podcast, because I know if once I am a multimillionaire and I own millions of dollars in real estate in the far future, I'm gonna be that guy that people look at like, oh, he's just evil. He's a millionaire. He takes advantage of people. That's what this podcast is about. It's documenting the journey it took from now until then. So nobody's gonna be able to sit here and say, oh, well, he was privileged or he, did whatever. Like, no, 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 no. When I had nothing, I mean, I don't have nothing now, but when I had less, I was still putting out free content for people to follow along the journey. I was still coaching people to take them the same path I am. So they have no excuse, which honestly, they have no excuse now, but it should gives them even more reason to have no excuse, being able to see the journey that they go on.
Well, you see people time and time again, they want to keep up with the Joneses. And if there's one thing I could tell anyone, when it comes to changing your mindset, stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. All right. That is like poison. And that's what we do. It's like the American way, is we want to keep up with the Joneses. And it's been exacerbated by social media, right? Because we're able to just show you what we want to show you. And I'm going to show you when I get a jacuzzi, and I'm going to show you when I go out to a nice restaurant, and I'm going to show you my new car. I won't show you my credit card statement or anything like that. So since, for maybe you and me, we can see through that. Or if you're close enough with that person, you kind of know, his wife, her credit card doesn't look too good. He doesn't have, his credit card isn't too good. I shouldn't put that on the wife, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might know that, but to most people, they don't see through that. They don't see that, they're not on the right path. They just see the jacuzzi and they go, oh man, I want one of those. So what do? We go out and we get a jacuzzi for ourselves, right? That's the first thing we do. Maybe we don't go into debt doing it. We don't put it on our credit card, but that money could have went into the market. Could have went into a 529 for your kids to start trying to build that generational wealth. So there's so many things you could, but we want to keep up with the Joneses. We want to look good. We want to have those nice clothes. We want to have those nice dinners. We want to have that nice car every 2 years, that new car every 2 years. But that's not the best plan to do that.
Yeah, and it's all about how you can really look at other people. Like, for example, you talked about people thinking they deserve things. I hate that D word. Like, I agree with you. No one deserves anything, right? You have to work for what you own. Therefore, the prime example I love to talk about is cars. Everyone thinks because you can afford to pay X amount per month on a car, you deserve that car. You work hard for that car. No, if you deserved that car, then you would have went to work, saved up the money, and bought the car. What does that mean? No, not everyone who has a car payment is stupid and evil. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you do not deserve that car, right? Someone lent you the money to buy that car. Therefore, you need to work in order to deserve that car. And it ends up playing into that FOMO, because when a lot of people, they pull up next to that guy in a nice Ferrari, they're like, man, I wish I had that Ferrari. No one ever says, man, I wish I had that $1,000 car payment. It doesn't come up. It's like, that's why you have to be able to see through that stuff. Like, okay, did he buy that car with cash? Is it leased? Is it a rental? We don't know. I don't know. All I know is that's a nice car, but that's not a nice car payment. I don't want it.
I mean, and you pull up to the guy at the light, and he has a 96 Corolla, right? And you think, wow, this guy's not doing too good. Little do you know, he has, a $500,000 brokerage account, and the car is still taking him from point A to point B. He's paying for it to get fixed when it needs to get fixed, but he didn't need a new car every 2 years. So, we instantly see, Lamborghini, you're doing good. Toyota Corolla, you're doing bad. And I think people are caught up with, well, I'd rather be the guy in the Lamborghini that's struggling and it looks good than the person that's in the Toyota Corolla and no one really knows. We're almost obsessed with how everyone views us, and that also is part of the mindset. Is, can you get past that and focus on, you know what? I'd rather have that $500,000 brokerage account because that's going to help me. It's going to help my family. It's going to help my kids.
Yeah, and that honestly, I think that's the reason why everyone cannot be successful. I don't think, because I honestly think if we lived in a society where people cared more about their financial security than their perception to the outside world, um, I think the society would go down, man, because nobody would spend any money on anything stupid. And so I think
Absolutely. We
that
need consumers.
yeah, we need consumers, exactly. So
Yes.
it's like that's why I hope the best for everybody, but I understand that in the world we live in, it would not function if everybody lived how they're supposed to live by my standards.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? It's better for us if they don't. For you and me.
Exactly, man. Exactly, and that, for the listeners too. That's not
Yeah.
saying that I think I'm going to give you bad advice because I want you to keep the world going around. No, no, no,
No.
no. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're going to be, and you take the advice from it, you're going to be on the right track. But you just have to understand that if you get on this track, you are going to be ostracized. You are going to be weird. You're going to be abnormal. People are going to start distancing themselves from you, but you're not going to be a part of that 70%. 70% of the population who cannot handle $1,000 emergency if it came up. You're not going to be a part of the 40% who can't even, like if they miss a paycheck, they completely go behind on bills. You're not going to be a part of the majority anymore, which is okay. Perfectly
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely. And that's tough for people though, because they, I think we obsess about making sure that we keep everyone around us happy. And what I tell people is, you know what? You are the company you keep. So if you doing better is going to hurt them or make them want to distance themselves from you, that's not the company you want to keep. So in this financial journey, as your listeners start to grow, they might see that, they might lose some people on the way, but you're not going to lose the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've learned through the years is I've lost many friends, and not lost, not like I couldn't call them, can't talk to them, but you kind of fall out of touch with people. But the important people have always been there for me. And I think it's hard, and I think even for myself it was hard to see those people go, to see that why can't we disagree on finances or how much I work and still be friends. But you know what, it's better in the long run that you're keeping better company. Your circle is getting smaller, but it's quality over quantity.
I love it, man. I love it. And so your content seems to be a lot less directed towards like the tactical how to invest, what to invest in type of content, and it's more about changing the mindset, getting out of that victim mindset, getting out of that I can't do it, or there are people stopping me, there are obstacles in the way that stop me from doing it. So how did you choose to target the mindset instead of the tactical steps?
Because I think it goes back kind of to what you were saying, where you said the first three steps are more than 50% of what it is, and in my eyes the tactical part is the easy part. It's if I can get you to change your mindset, then it's easy for me to tell you the steps from there. Okay, make sure you do your 401k to the match, put it into these index funds. Hey, and then, open a Roth IRA. Those things are easy. But if I can't convince you that that's the way, that it's important to invest, it's important to save your money, it's important to live below your means. If I can't convince you to see that it's important to live below your means, then the rest doesn't matter. The tactical part, we can't even get to the tactical part. So I try to always focus on the mindset that you have to be mentally tough to see that, I'm not going to keep up with the Joneses. you know what? A lot of my friends are going to think that I'm lame for not going out every Friday and Saturday night because I want to save my money. You know, those type of things. You have to be able to have that mindset long before you're able to really focus on trying to invest and trying to put your money in the right places or do the right things with your money. All right. Apart from that, then once you do get there, you also need to have the mindset to realize, hey, you're going to put the money in. You don't need it tomorrow. It's for your retirement or it's for many years down the road. Just leave it in. And I've had many arguments with people that are like, market's going down, I'm taking it out, And I'm like, please, for heaven's sake, don't take it out. When do you need this money? I don't know, 20 years. Well, if you don't need it for 20 years, don't take it out. If you need it tomorrow, by all means, the market's going down, there's a correction. Okay, take it out, but you don't need it tomorrow. So you want to leave it in. And if you don't have that mental toughness, if you don't have the mindset, then it doesn't matter what I tell you about the specifics of the market or what things to put it in, how to invest your money. So I try to focus on the mindset first, and then talk about the tactical stuff.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. Dave Ramsey, he has a quote he says in his show a lot, which it's phenomenal, man. He says a lot of great stuff. But the only people, so the stock market is like a roller coaster, and the only people who get hurt on a roller coaster are those who jump off before the ride's over. And it's like, it's literally it. The market's gonna go up. You're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna enjoy the climb. As soon as it starts going down, you start panicking. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I need to just take it all out. And at some point, the ride stops and you're done, with all of the ups and downs. And that's retirement. That's what retirement is. And you have to be able to mentally absorb the blows of the up and down, because they're 100% happy riding it all the way up. But as soon as it takes a turn, then, oh, the market is a scam, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Like, let's look at the history. Every time it's dropped, it's gone back up. It drops again, it goes back up. There's a pattern. There's a very distinct pattern you can look at. So what do we know? Of course, we can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but we can look at the past and make a very educated guess. So
Yeah,
I do
absolutely.
think, yeah. And my wife, man,
And
she's like, she just started, investing in the market and stuff like that. And she's feeling like right now, at the time of recording this, the market's going kind of, it's being kind of volatile.
yeah,
And she's like,
absolutely.
whoa, babe. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, stay the course. We're on a roller coaster. Like we are 23 and 24. We don't need this money for another 40 years. If
Yep.
it's down in 40 years, we'll talk about it. But otherwise, we're on a roller coaster. We just have to stay the course.
Yeah. And, I talk to people, and I'm sure you've talked to people the same way, is, you tell them something like, oh, if you just do $25 a paycheck, right? In so many years, it'll be, say, I don't know, specific, but say, oh, it'll be 50 grand. Well, 50 grand isn't even that much. I'd rather just do none. And, if I can't convince you to get the mindset of just, what, that $25 isn't doing anything for me right now, I'll probably just end up spending it on something. But if I take it out, I really won't miss it, and it'll end up being 50 grand down the line. If I can't get you to wrap your mind around that and get that mindset, it doesn't matter about what ETF I tell you to put your money in, or how to tackle the market, or dollar cost averaging or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny you say that, because I did do on my compound interest episode, I did like $1 a day. Like if you invest $1 a day, it'll end up being like $141,000 after 30 years. And you might look at it like, well, why would I wait 30 years for $140,000? And I'm just like, okay, what's the alternative? You don't invest $1 a day, and in 30 years you have nothing.
Nothing.
So like really, is this even a discussion? And
Right.
then I'm just like, if you cannot afford $1 a day, you are talking to the wrong person. That's just my personal opinion. I understand a lot of people have their own struggles. but I'm 100% sure everyone can find $1 a day somewhere. That's $30 a month.
I
So
agree. And the people that eventually get the right mindset, they'll tell you time and time again, I don't even miss it. I don't even know that it's taken out, right? Oh, $25, $50 a paycheck, whatever. Because what do we do whenever we get like a raise at work? We learn how to spend it.
mm,
So if you can do the reverse, if you can learn how to budget better, you can learn how to do without that $25 a paycheck, right? Your life's really pretty much the same, but now you have that $25 a paycheck or that dollar a day becoming $150,000 or whatever it comes out to.
yeah, and I'm gonna one up you. A lot of another thing that you hear it every single time. I wish I started earlier. That is, man, I have heard it so many. It's broken my heart every time I hear it. I wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have started earlier. And
Yeah.
now I'm sitting here telling my peers who are my age, like, listen, these guys are telling us they wish they started earlier. We are earlier. Like, let's start. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
And what's funny about that is from my experience, I've heard that as well, but I don't hear it from 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds. I hear it from 50-year-olds
mhm.
where they're way out of the game. So it's like if you're 30, you're 40, you're still in the game, in my eyes at least. You still have time, some time on your side. But you hear time and time again from people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, wish I started earlier. If you could have just picked that up, not that I'm saying you had to pick it up in your 20s. Your 20s are tough. All right. James, you're way ahead of the game. Okay. But if you can still get that mindset by 40, you still have time on your side, but you see that time and time again, people are saying it in their 60s. So maybe you won't get people in their 20s, too many people in their 20s to latch on to that. But if this podcast can get people in their 30s and their 40s, still can help them greatly to
Yeah,
get
and
that mindset.
I kind of like to use it as leverage because it's kind of like if when I can get the people in their 20s to do it, now it kind of like puts some pressure on those in their 30s. Like, wait a minute, if this 20-year-old is doing it, I can at least do what he's doing. And then the 40-year-olds are like, okay, if these guys are doing it, then I can at least do what they're doing. So it kind of puts like the older crowd in the headlock is like, okay, hold on. These Gen Z, they're kicking butt. Like they have more in retirement than I do. I need
Yeah,
to step my game up. And then I kind
absolutely.
of like the little, I mean, I guess it might all be in my head, honestly, but it's like a little competition. You know what I
I
mean?
was gonna say you must be very competitive.
I am very competitive, but I just think because when I look at people younger than me that are, I don't want to say doing better, but they have higher ambitions and like they see potential in themselves that I don't see in myself. It's not necessarily a keeping up with the Joneses thing, but I'll look at them like Jabbar I had on episode 5. He's doing short-term rentals. He's in real estate. He's like a couple years younger than me. I'm like, man, I got to step my game up, man. Like you're making me look bad, And it's not a keeping up with
Yeah,
the Joneses thing. It's just like he's showing me that it's possible to do it at such a higher level. So now it's giving me the confidence to do it, or at least to strive to do it. And
yeah.
so
That's a competitive mentality. I don't think that's keeping up with the Joneses. Where if you're gonna lease a car every 2 years, that's keeping up with the Joneses.
yeah. And it's also it's not like an envious thing. Like I don't think he because I can't do it, he shouldn't be able to do it.
No, it's
It's like
inspiring.
exactly that's the word. It's inspiring. It's like
Yeah,
because he can do it, I can do it. And so because I can do it, you can do it. And just because you can do it, now someone else can do it. And that's it's like an infinite chain reaction, man. It's like get the content out there, let people hear and see what others are doing, and hopefully it inspires at least one to
yeah.
make the
I
change.
mean, I know there's calls for socialism now, and you see that people are upset with billionaires, right? But to me, it's almost inspiring. Like you have these people; they were able to invent something. They were able to put together a company, and I mean, they're just flesh and blood like I am. They're just a normal person or they were a normal person. Now we think of them as these titans. They're just a normal person. They had the drive. They had an amazing idea. And to me, that's not something where I feel like that's not fair. We need to bring those people down. We need to me, it's like, wow, that's possible. That's great. That's good for me. That's inspiring. So, and I don't, not to say that I think I'll be Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or anything like that, but I mean, the fact that you can even go towards that direction is amazing to me and inspiring. It's not something that I'm envious of. It's something that I love to see.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I target Gen Z, is because like what you just described, I see it a lot with not necessarily like immediate peers like in my social circle, but just peers that I maybe have went to school with or friends of friends. They have this sense of, because I cannot have it, the sense of envy, like because I can't have it, he should not either. So that's when I see people like, oh, death to the billionaires and blah, blah, blah. Jeff Bezos has an amazing quote. I've said it a bunch of times. He said, Amazon is worth $1 trillion. He owns $160 billion worth of Amazon. What does that mean? That means he created $840 billion for other people. And I was like, whoa, like, how is this evil? How is this? And all he did was provide a phenomenal service to many countries. Like, yeah. And it's just, I see it as the younger generation. It's like a form of, it's like a form of envy, a form of entitlement, kind of mixed all together, which is why I'm trying to destroy that stigma. Like, rich people aren't evil. And anytime you say like, oh, all rich people are evil or they're all greedy, I feel like you're talking to me, because that they are where I want to be. And it's not just because of the money, but it's because what the money affords me, which is time, options, and opportunities to give and to change others' lives. So
Absolutely. And when I talk to people that have this call for socialism, I don't want to get political or anything like that. I understand where they're coming from, that they think that that is the best way of going about it, that we should redistribute wealth. But it goes back to what we were saying before. If you're not financially literate, it doesn't really matter if we redistribute wealth. You know, time and time again, lottery winners, it's not that they didn't win enough in the lottery. You have people winning $300 million, right? A third of $1 billion they win in the lottery. They end up broke. Was it because it wasn't enough money? They should have got more? No, because they weren't financially literate. So we could redistribute wealth as much as we want, but a lot of people would be in the same position that they were before we redistributed wealth. So if we're going to redistribute wealth, we need to work on our financial literacy. And in order to do that, we have to change our culture, because what is our culture right now? Keeping up with Joneses. So, I'm not going to say that someone's political views are wrong. I welcome all sorts of political views. And there's, throughout my life, people have taught me a lot, and I've changed my own views. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. And with all these things, we love to look at it through the two-party system's eyes. But really, is there two parties? No, because for every issue, we have our own opinion on it. Of course, we can't have 1,000 different parties for every little niche and every, a combination of views that you could have. But it's so much more than just this black and white, red or blue. It's really a gray area. So, you have to keep in mind that while it might sound great, it might not work out for people the way that it seems like it would, where you redistribute everything and everyone's good. I don't think, and that's why I obviously like the capitalist mentality more, because at least if I work hard, I know I'll get X, Y, and Z. So, and I think there's plenty of socialists that believe in hard work as well. But we just have a different outlook on how's that going to help us? How's that going to help our family?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with saying like I just socialism to me it just doesn't work because all it is to me looking at it from the outside is just an equality of outcome. No matter how much work you put in compared to me, we're always going to get the equal outcome, and I think that all that's going to do is create lazier people, and it's just going to be all around bad. And I just don't believe in an equality outcome. I think you get what you deserve. If you work harder than the next person, you should get more. And that's just my raw dog opinion on it. I don't really care if people disagree or not. It's my opinion is probably not going to change on it. As long as I continue to work harder than other people, I should be entitled to get more than them. And that's not
I
to
agree.
say, yeah, it's just, but we're not going to get too far down that rabbit hole, man.
No, my point was, and I agree with you completely. My point is just that, I don't want to alienate anyone that has different views. That's fine with me. But just the way I see it is the way you see it is. You know what? I like a system where the harder I work, the better the outcome is, because I'm willing to sacrifice. It goes back to the whole you got to be willing to sacrifice thing. I'm willing to sacrifice. Okay. And if I'm not willing to sacrifice, then I'm not going to expect to get the thing that you get when you sacrifice.
I couldn't have said it better myself, man. So tell me, Matthew, what is your overall investment strategy up to this point?
Well, like I said, my my big thing initially was buying a primary home. I wanted a house for myself. So you see now a lot of people talking about don't buy a house, rent. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's always popping up on my social media. People are now arguing it's better to rent. And there are cases where it is. If you have a job where you're constantly have to move around, you have some company that's always moving you, or you always have to go on these business trips, you're never home, or you got to travel overseas, or you uh, have trouble with doing maintenance for your home or something. There's plenty of cases where I can see you should rent, but at the end of the day, I think it's one of the best investments you can make. And people say it's not an investment. You're not really making money off of it, but you do need a place to live anyway. Okay, and it is going to appreciate over the years. I look at my home. It's gone up quite a bit with the shortages of housing at this point, after COVID and everything. So I didn't do anything. I just kept living. I kept paying my mortgage on the house. And you know what? My equity went up, and it went up real quick. So that helps my net worth. Now, when you look at the statistics, you see that people that own homes are better off than people that aren't. So as much as these people want to argue that renting is better, statistically, the people that own homes throughout their lives, when it comes to retirement, they end up having a higher net worth, just statistically. So that was my big thing. I wanted to do that, and I wanted to put down 20%. And now they have loans, you put 3.5% down, whatever it may be. And that's fine. You pay PMI, which I'm really against PMI, but you know what, if it can help you, and it's great for people that are going to get like a multifamily, and they're going to live in half and rent out the other half. Okay, who cares about the PMI being 100 and 200 bucks a month, whatever. It gets you in, and you put less down, and maybe the extra money you can renovate, or you can put in the market, whatever it may be. But to me, I think if you're going to be a homeowner, you should really put 20% down. And it's not so much about the money thing or the investment strategy, but to me, it's kind of a mentality. It's like if you can't put 20% together, you might not be ready to own a home, right? If you weren't, it's kind of like people that buy cars and put no money down. Well, that's great. You got the car, but are you going to be able to make the payments? Because you weren't even able to put like $2,000 together to get that car. So, the 20% thing is more of a mentality thing to me. I know Dave Ramsey always said, if you can't do a 15-year mortgage, you shouldn't get it. And I like that idea too. I don't think you should do a 15-year mortgage, but I think that you should be able to afford the payments if it was. So I know maybe that's a little confusing, but it's just a mentality thing. Like you should be able to afford this mortgage before you get it. And if you can barely manage to save enough money to put together a down payment, maybe you're not ready. But anyway, so that was my big thing, and I kept things in savings for my down payment because I didn't want to put in the market and risk it. I didn't know, because obviously when you're putting things in the market long term, it's going to go up and go down, but over long term it goes up. But in the short term, you don't know what it does. So I left in savings. I always tell people, you know what, any savings you have, except maybe the money you have for day-to-day expenses, put it in a high yield savings account. That is one thing that I can tell anyone I know. Obviously, like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA, not a lawyer, but that's something I recommend to anyone that I talk to, friends or family. Get a high yield. You have nothing to lose. It's the same. It's ultimately the same as your regular bank account. It's not investing or anything like that. They just offer higher interest rates. And right now, the interest rates aren't really great. You get 0.5 if you have like a Marcus or an Ally account, something like that. But there have been times when it's 3%. And I remember I had a high yield in high school and I was getting like 4%, which is like crazy to think of now. But you're not risking it. You're not locking it in like a CD. So that's something that everyone should do. So I did do that at that time. And then, as I was getting situated with my down payment, then I started to put more into the market. And my investment strategy has always been index funds first. Okay. Every year I usually set a goal for myself. I'll say, back in my early 20s, I'd say, I want to put like $3,000 into my brokerage account by the end of the year. And then if I had a little bit extra, then maybe I'd put it into like a single stock. But I don't really recommend individual stocks to anyone really starting out. And I myself to this day am all about index funds, ETFs, mutual funds. But it is something that I'll dabble with. I'll put some money into an individual stock here and there if I really like something. I see something I think that it'll take off, or I think it's doing well, I'll do it. I also like to put money into the dividend aristocrats or dividend kings, those things, blue chip stocks. I like to do that type of stuff. But really, majority of my money, my 401k, that's going into mutual funds. And even my brokerage account is going into ETFs that are index funds. So that's really my philosophy is, put it in, set it, and forget it. Like, I'd rather invest towards the end and get my 7 to 10% a year on that investment than try to start chasing these things, hoping I get 500% return or anything like that. I'm okay with just getting 10% a year. That's fine for me, and that's always been my philosophy. It sounds boring, but you know what? Boring is good.
Boring is good, man. You hit on a lot of good things. I want to start with your home purchase. You said 20% down, no issue with that, right? If it helps you sleep at night, it's all about what helps you sleep at night. And if putting 20% down to help you sleep at night, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And it avoids the PMI. I will say I didn't do that for 2 of the properties I purchased. I used a VA home loan, no PMI. The stipulation, though, every property I purchase, if I don't put 20% down, I have the means to put 20% down.
Bingo.
I don't buy the house if I don't have the reserves. And just in case if I buy it the next day, the roof needs replacing or whatever, I always make sure to have that money. And I have the option to put down a minimum of 20%. So,
and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. And you hit on that. Basically, it's like if you cannot afford to put 20% down, then you probably shouldn't be buying a house, which I agree with in my personal circumstances. And the reason I say this is because, 20% down, every rental property I buy, I put 20% down. But for my primary residence, the 2 I've bought, I didn't. And I just wanted to, clear that out.
Also had access to
the VA home loan,
right,
which is 0% down. Yeah,
right. Well,
cheat
you
code,
can't beat
man.
that, right? Take
cheat
advantage.
code. Yeah. You know what I mean? and so the next thing is you suggesting not to put over $500 into a single stock. I love that mentality of like you're putting a limit on it. My limit's a bit different because $500 to someone who's worth negative 5,000 is much different than 500 compared to someone worth 5 million. So
Right.
I just like to use like I got it from Dave Ramsey. I just agree with it. 10% of your net worth should never be in a single stock of any kind. So if you're worth 5 million and you've got 500,000 in a single stock, you're way too heavy in that.
Right.
So, and it's all relative. And I love to be diversified, which is why I love index funds, man. I don't buy single stocks. I bought some during 2020. I still haven't sold them. I should probably just, get the gains or whatever, but I just, I'm a buy and holder, man. I got them like the
So am
bottom of the
I.
bottom. And so
I
I
when
do.
I buy, when I buy, I'm holding it. So, um, they're I'm starting to get into you know, learning about swing trading, things like that. So, but that's, like I said, that, or like you said, really, when you're first starting out, that's not, you
Yeah,
want to do buy and hold. And I still, every paycheck, it's going to buy and hold. So even if, I take $250 and I try to play with a swing or whatever, that's me, gambling in my
mhm.
eyes. So don't confuse swing trading, options trading with investing and retirement, because it's really gambling, in my eyes, at least.
Exactly. You wouldn't take your whole nest egg and take it to Vegas and put it on a hand of blackjack. It's the same thing with you wouldn't swing trade with your whole nest egg. It's all about
Exactly.
diversification
Right.
because if one company goes down, nobody's going to bat an eye. If the
Right.
top 500 companies in the United States all go down to zero, we've got way bigger problems in this country to worry about than what's in our
Right.
retirement accounts.
Right.
I absolutely love that you brought up the Roth IRA because I always tell people we know what taxes are today. We have no clue what taxes are going to be when we go to retire. So I'm going to give you your money now. If they're
Yeah.
lower in the future, boo hoo, I missed a couple percentage points or whatever. But even the
It's
growth,
a risk you're willing to take. That's how I
absolutely,
look
man. It
at it.
helps me sleep at night. So, Matthew, tell me this. What are some of your short term money goals that you want to accomplish within the next 6 months to a year?
6 months, that's kind of a short time frame. To me, I always come into like a new year, it's January, come into a new year, and I always think, you know what? I want to put, by the end of the year, I want to put six in my 401k, and I want to put six in my Roth IRA. So that's always like the first thing I think about in the beginning of the year. I want to do that. Okay. And then I'd also like to put 3 to 6 in my brokerage account. If I can also do that, I'll go back to my 401k, put more in there. Eventually, it'd be nice to be able to max out my 401k, max out my Roth IRA every year, and then also put a ton of money in my brokerage account as well, or into saving up for a down payment for that rental property that we were talking about.
So, what are some of your long term goals that you want to accomplish within the next 5 to 10 years? And what does the finish line look like for you?
So 5 to 10 years, to me, I would love to, I'd love to hit 1 million by then, because my end goal is not to retire with 1 million. My end goal would be to retire with 2.5 million. Really, that's what I'm looking. Like you said, your friend was looking at trying to be a billionaire. I'm not really looking for that necessarily. I'd like to have at the end, you know, 2.5 million. Okay, that gives me a withdrawal, a yearly withdrawal of 100,000. I could live off that. You know why? Because hopefully my house will be paid off. All right, maybe I'll have some rental income by then, and that'll give me enough money to travel once or twice a year, eat out twice a month, maybe, just keep it simple. But what I want to do, the end game really is get my time back, because that's, to me, that's what it's all about. The money, I don't really care about the money so much as the time, right? We want the time to be able to do the things that we enjoy. And I'm lucky that the things that I enjoy aren't expensive, because the things that I enjoy are, going hiking, playing fetch with my dog, spending time with family. Those are things that are important for me. Unfortunately, while I'm on the grind, while I'm paper chasing, I don't have a ton of time to do those things. So the end game would be get that time back. And even sooner, hopefully sooner than when I retire. I'm looking to retire, maybe 55, 57 based on my job. Hopefully sooner than that, I can dial back on, my side hustles and my other jobs so that I have more time with my family as my assets start to create more gains than what I put in. I can take my foot off the gas a little bit. So as much as, like your friend may feel like he's never going to take his foot off the gas, I'd like to take my foot off the gas. I feel like I did the right things in my 20s. I'm doing the right things in my 30s. I'm going to continue to grind it out for my 30s, but I don't want to wait till I'm 60 to take my foot off the gas. It'd be nice if come 40, 45, I could start taking my foot off the gas. Not retire. I don't really buy, I know a lot of people want to retire at 35, they want to retire at 40. I don't plan on retiring at that point, but it would be nice to, I don't have to do that second job. I don't have to do that side hustle anymore. Maybe at that point I want to be busy, but I think I'll want to have that time with my family. I want to hang with my dogs, and go hiking and, maybe travel a little bit more. Like I said, I'm not one of these people that wants to go to Italy for 2 months a year or anything like that, but it'd be nice to be able to travel a little bit more and spend quality time with my family. So that's the end game, is get your time back. And I don't, it doesn't bother me making that sacrifice now. All right. I know I sacrifice time with my family while I'm, grinding it out. Doesn't bother, but I don't want to do that forever. You don't want to be 70 years old and say, I grinded and I made a ton of money, but I gave up something that I really wish I wouldn't have given up for too long.
Man, that's awesome. I think time is something that being wealthy, that's what gives you time. It's not that, yeah, I don't even know why I'm gonna try and re-say what you just said because you put it phenomenally, man. But
I mean, I
yeah,
don't know if I'll have a million by in 10 years. I don't know if I'll have a million, but that's a goal. It's something to try to reach, something to, I guess, like, you're a competitive person, so kind of something to push myself to see if I can do it. If I can't, probably not going to matter in the long run, because I think if I keep doing the right things, I can get to at least 1.5 at the end, to 2, hopefully get to the 2.5. But it'd be nice to say, what, in 10 years, I reached a million, and then it just keeps compounding from there.
yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. So let's go ahead and go into the final questions of the podcast. These are the same questions that I ask every single guest that comes on. Here's the first one, Matthew. Everyone has their own definition of what it means to have financial peace. What is your definition? And I think you kind of already hit on it a little bit in the last question, but
Yeah, I I want to get my time back, and and it'd be nice to, like I said, I think I try to sacrifice because I always look at, well, what could this do if I put this in the market instead? But eventually, when you get financial peace, you say to yourself, I don't need to put that in the market. I have a ton in the market. It's doing what it's got to do. It's time. I go to that fancy restaurant twice this month instead of once this month, right? Or I go once this month, even though normally I wouldn't ever go to that fancy restaurant. So that's really what it's about.
I love it, man. I love it. So, if there are listeners out there that want to start building wealth and they have no clue where to get started, what would you tell them?
Make sacrifices. You have to make sacrifices. If you're not willing to give up going to the bar 3 nights a week, if you're not willing to stop, gambling on those football games, if you're not willing to make your lunch for work instead of going out with your colleagues every day, you're not willing to do that, then you're not never going to get to step 2. That is step 1. You have to do that. That's most important. Another thing I say is you are the company you keep. So start surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you grow. If there's people that are bringing you down, okay, I'm not saying that you have to remove them from your life completely, but don't let them bring you down. Start making your own decisions, and don't let them make decisions for you. Um, I always say that, it's going to be painful. It's going to be tough. Okay. But that means that you're growing. And, one thing is that, I think that what you need to do is you need to change your life. Okay. Whatever your life is right now, you've done it this way and it's brought you to where you are right now. And if you don't like where you are right now, you got to change it. You can't keep doing the same things looking for a different outcome. So what I tell people is, you know what? Let's try this. How about let's not worry about the rest of your life. I think that's daunting for people, right? Talk about like, your heart's not good. You need to go on this diet. People start thinking, I got to be on this diet the rest of my life. Let's not look at this in that aspect. And that's what people think. It's like, you mean I have to budget for the rest of my life? Let's not even look that far. Let's look at it 5 or 10 years. How about this? How about you try to budget for 5 years? Okay. Try to do that. 2 things are going to happen. Okay. After 5 years, you're going to be in a better place. That's one thing that's going to happen. But the bigger thing that's going to happen in 5 years, you're going to like doing what you've been doing. It's going to be a habit. Okay. And that habitual movement is just going to make things better and better. So as much as we don't want to give up our old lives, you start getting into the habit of your new life. When you finally reach the finish line and you say, oh, I can give up that life. I told myself after 5 years, I'd give up that heavy budgeting life. You're going to get there. And you know what? You're going to be so different that you're going to want to do that. Okay. I always think about like reading. People don't like reading. I tell people, you know what? Start reading 10 pages a day. No matter what, if you hate it, I don't care. Do it for 6 months. Read 10 pages a day. And you know what happens after 6 months? Oh, I don't hate reading that much. It's not that bad. So you know what? You create these habits, and what happens is they become a part of you. It's not as painful, but you need to be able to let go of that old life that said, I hated reading. Force yourself to create that habit. And then suddenly you realize, you know what? No, this is who I am now. I like to read. So after 6 months, I say, you know what? Give up reading if you don't like it at that point. But a lot of times at that point, it's become a habit. It's part of your life. So if you're just getting started, I say, don't worry about 30 years, right? Don't worry about, oh, wait, I gotta put all this. You want me to max out my Roth IRA? I got to put $6,000 aside every single year for the next 30 or 40 years. Oh, that sounds daunting. No, try it for 5 years. Try it for 2 years. How about that? And what you're going to see is that it's going to become habit, and it's not going to be as bad as it seems when you're first thinking about it. And you're going, oh no, 40 years of this, that's terrible. So that's what I tell people just starting out.
Yeah, and I would take it even short. Try a budget for 30 days. See how it works. Try for 60 days. Try for 90 days, because like you said, looking ahead even 5 years can be extremely daunting for
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
But the key is to just start. But if there's one piece of advice that you could give people to avoid doing to build wealth, what would it be?
Stop listening to your friends and family. That's what I would tell people. You know what? Family is great. Friends are great. I love mine. I love my friends. I love my family. But you can't listen to them and have them make your choices, because you know who has to live with your choices? Not them. You have to live with your choices. Stop listening to them. Do your due diligence. Do your own research. You have to be able to critical think and make your own decisions. Use your friends and family for input. Get their opinions. I'm not saying shut them out, but you have to stop being in that mentality of like, oh, my parents will be mad at it, or my friends will be mad if I don't set up this type of account. They don't have to live with it. All right. If you in your heart you don't want to do it, all right, don't let them force you to do anything, or don't feel guilty or guilted into doing anything. You need to do things for yourself. Stop listening to them. I have a lot of friends that have given me terrible advice. I still love them, but if I listened to them, I wouldn't be where I am now. All right. So don't be afraid to do your own research. And you don't have to go back to them and say, hey, here's my research. This is why you're wrong. You can kind of nod your head and say, oh, okay, yeah. And then do what you have to do that's best for you. That's probably one of the things that I think is hardest for people. They're not able to just make their own decision because they have all this static, I guess I would call it, static in their ear. People saying, do this, do this, do this. Do your due diligence. All right. No one's going to look out for you the way you're going to look out for you. All right. And I tell people that also when they have financial advisors. Okay. Don't be afraid to check up on your financial advisor. See what they put you in. All right. They'll probably put you in great stuff, but it doesn't hurt for you to learn a little bit. It doesn't hurt for you to understand what they're putting you in. All right. As much as we say, oh, we hired this guy, it's his job, let him worry about it or let her worry about it, you still are going to look out for yourself better. You're going to look out for yourself better than anyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. You should always trust the professionals, but they should also be teachers. And if they're not teaching you, then you might need more professionals in your corner.
Yeah, and I also say that don't let other people set the bar for you, okay? Because um, you know the bar is low when you look at other people. People are not doing the right thing with their money. The majority of people don't do the right thing with their money. All right. So don't get caught in this thing as like, well, I only have to save $5 a paycheck because that guy doesn't save any. Don't let that be the bar. The sky is the limit. So don't look at your friends or your colleagues that aren't doing the right stuff and say, well, at least, I'm doing better than them. No, set the bar higher for yourself. Okay. Don't do it based on other. If you're going to let these other people that are doing the wrong thing set the bar for you, you're going to end up pretty close to where they are.
Yeah, I love it, man. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, she's like, yeah, but we're doing better than other people. I'm like, yeah, but the bar is not high enough. Like, yeah, I agree with you. But I have to remind my wife that is like we can't compare ourselves to the people that are around us because we want to. I like to compare myself to people that are ahead of me and try and keep up with them
You're
because that's
absolutely
what's going
right.
to get me where I want to be.
And you're
So
lucky because you have a wife that will listen to you, right? That
yeah,
that
yeah,
will
absolutely.
will take in the information and won't fight you on it. And that's also a big part of generating wealth is finding the right people to surround yourself with. If you don't have a significant other, if you don't have a husband or a wife that is going to support you, it's just going to be a constant uphill battle. So you want to surround yourself with the right people, friends, family, spouses, significant others.
Gotcha. So if there's someone out there that doesn't believe they can reach financial peace due to their age, race, religion, sexual orientation, etc., what would you say to change their mind?
I would say that look at the people that have reached financial peace. Okay. See what they have to say. Don't look at the people that haven't reached financial peace. All right. I can tell you what they're going to say. They're going to say, don't bother. System is rigged. Everything's terrible. There's no sense in trying to even face it boldly. All right. Don't pay attention to them. All right. We don't want to go that route anyway. We don't want to end up like them. Look at the people that have reached financial peace. All right. I've never met anyone that reached financial peace that said, don't bother. It's not worth it. Hard work doesn't pay off. No, they all say the opposite, right? And they're not trying to trick people into trying to go this route that will never work for them. They're being honest. They're saying, you know what? You could do it too. And I think honestly, people that have reached financial peace, a lot of them have an ego. So they, when you have an ego, there's nothing you would love more than to say, you can't do what I did. There's no way to do what I did. But you know what almost all of them say? Anybody could do it. You could do it. You could start a business. You could start with real estate. You can invest. They all say it. Well, why are they all saying it? Is it some big conspiracy that they're all coming together and say, hey, let's trick you? No, it's because it's the truth. So I say ignore the people that are saying you can't do it, the people that haven't done it and are saying you can't do it. And I'm saying, pay attention to the people that have done it. And there's people of all ages, all races that have done it. And look at them. Okay. If you feel like, you know what, I want someone that's my age, that's my race, my gender. There's someone out there, no matter who you are, no matter what your age, race, gender is, that has found financial peace, has become, has become rich. And you know what? That should be an inspiration for you. Okay. They didn't do it because someone, put them on just to prove everyone wrong. Oh no, this person can do it. This age person can do it or anything like that. No, it's because, anyone can do it, but you have to make those sacrifices and you have to put the work in.
Yeah, and that goes back to your network being your net worth. When you are
Absolutely.
surrounded by people who look like you, they come from where you come from, they understand the obstacles and struggles you're going to go through. They've already made it through. So the best thing that you can do once you're at the top is to turn around and grab others and pull them up. So
Absolutely.
they're always willing to help. I say it 100 times. Anybody who's successful is always willing to turn around, leave breadcrumbs, and have others follow.
It's true.
Mattthew, where can people find out more about you?
Well, you can follow me at Black Bear Finance on Instagram, Black Bear Fin on Twitter. You can email me at blackbearfinanceedu@gmail.com. And really, at the end of the day, if you ever want to know more about me, please ask. All right, you can DM me. Best place is probably to DM me on Instagram, and I'll get back to you. And I like to think of myself as an open book. I'll tell you what my opinion is. Again, not a financial advisor, not a lawyer, not a CPA. But I'll tell you, from what my experience, what the options are, and you can, I like to just educate. So you make your decision. I provide the information. I also, you can read my book, Rich People Eat Leftovers. You can get it on Amazon by Mattthew Mayar. If you're interested in some of the other things I do, I wrote a biology book called Hudson Valley Biology, so you can check that out on Amazon as well. But like I said, please DM me with any questions, and definitely follow my Instagram page, Black Bear Finance, to see what I'm talking about and what I'm reposting and what's on my mind on any given day.
Yeah, guys. And of course, all of the books we mentioned earlier, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Peter Lynch's content, I'm going to be linking all of that in the show notes. I'll also be linking all of his social medias and both books that he just mentioned. It'll all be below if you guys do decide you want to check that stuff out. But Mattthew, I really appreciate you taking the time, man, coming on kind of late at night and just having this great conversation, man. It's been super duper enlightening.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. Again, thank you for your service, and I love this podcast. I hope that I can come back if you want me to, and we can talk about more stuff, because you know what, this is what we talked about tonight. I know we talked about a lot. We got into a lot. Just the tip of the iceberg. We can keep going. So again, thank you so much. I hope you have a great evening, and I hope all your listeners got a lot out of this.
Yeah, man, I will definitely have you back on because I got to hold you accountable to all those goals that you set, man. We got to have accountability.
Please do.
But all right, later, man.
All right, catch you later.
And guys, that was my interview with Mattthew from Black Bear Finance. I already told you guys, man, his mindset, he focuses on the mindset. I've said it on past episodes and I'll say it again. Once you believe you can do it, it's done. Once your mind goes and you realize, like, I can be a millionaire and I don't have to make hundreds of $1,000s a year to do so, The tactical portion of investing is super duper easy. The best portfolios, the best performing portfolios are those of dead people because they don't sell and they just ride the roller coaster as it goes up and up and up. And we have no reason to believe in the future it's not going to continue to do the same. That's why the mindset is so important. You can become a millionaire making $50,000 a year. Dave Ramsey and his team did a study where they interviewed over 10,000 millionaires and they ranked them by profession. The first one was engineers, who are most likely to become millionaires. But who made the top 5 list? Teachers did. Why are teachers on the top 5 professions to become a millionaire? It's not because of their high salary. It's because they develop a plan and they stick to it, and they do it every single month. They focus on investing every single month consistently because they understand how compound interest works. And that's what they just stick to it. They stay the course. Their mindset is, I'm going to put this money in and I'm going to forget about it. That's why they become millionaires. So you don't have to make the most money in your family. You just have to be disciplined. And it all starts with the mindset. So I really appreciate Mattthew coming on and talking about that, and sharing how he really gets people to change their mindset when it comes to money and when it comes to building wealth. But I'm about to get out of here, guys. I just want to remind you, if you guys do enjoy the podcast, please leave a review on wherever you listen, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, because it really helps get the podcast out to other people. And honestly, the number one way you can show your support is sharing it. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member. Let's stop making finances such a taboo topic. Like, let's just talk about it. Let's get it all out there and let's all grow together. Also, if you guys are interested in a one-on-one coaching session with myself, you can schedule that down below. If you click the one-on-one coaching link, you can get that scheduled and we'll jump on and we will get your finances in order. That's what I'm here for, guys. But that's it for me. I'm going to get up out of here, guys. I hope you guys have a blessed week. And without further ado, I'm James Bowman. And always remember, you're only as secure as your ability to perform. So spend your life accumulating assets that can perform for you. Later, guys.